All right, everybody, welcome to tonight's event. We are very excited to have Kolin and Lisa from the Simi Winery on the line tonight. We have a really fun presentation planned for you. Lisa is going to do a little wine tasting. Kolin is going to take us on a fun adventure, a fun culinary adventure. So we're very excited to have Lisa, the winemaker for Simi, here with us tonight. Kolin is the head chef. Also on the line tonight, we have Lisa Goslin. It's the night of many Lisas. We're so excited. Lisa Goslin, our wine marketing specialist. We also have Cheryl Andrews from Horizon Beverage. Cheryl is the sales manager here in New Hampshire for Simi. We also have Mitchell from Constellation Brands. Mitchell and Cheryl work together a lot, and he is the wine and spirits sales director for New Hampshire, Maine, and Vermont. And you have me, Carol Ann. Hello, everyone. It's nice to see some familiar faces, well, sort of familiar faces on the line tonight. I've been having a great time moderating a lot of these 90 days events throughout the last few months, so it's great to see you guys. And then I also have Lauren here helping me monitor some comments as they come in on Facebook and on Zoom. So any questions or comments that you have for anybody on the line, please go ahead, leave a message on Zoom or on Facebook, depending on where you're watching. We're just so excited to have you all here tonight. Lisa actually went live with me over the summer as part of our summer fun tour. Simi was a sponsor of our summer fun tour. We had a great night, me, her, and Chad. And tonight we're excited to have Lisa Goslin with us and the rest of the team. So that's enough for me. I'm going to kick things over to Lisa to tell us a little bit about Simi.
There we go. I'm unmuted now. Hello, everyone. Hello, New Hampshire. Welcome to Sonoma County, to Simi Winery. First of all, I really just want to say thank you to the New Hampshire Liquor Commission for always being such a great partner with us, and to Cheryl and Mitchell and our people on the ground there that are so wonderful to work with. It's always a pleasure. So thank you very much. I'm here at Simi Winery. We're here in Healdsburg in the northern part of Sonoma County. Simi was first established by two brothers who came over to California from Montepulciano, from the Tuscany region of Italy. They came to California originally during the gold rush, trying to make it rich in the gold fields in the Sierra Nevada foothills, but ended up doing what they were doing at home in Italy, which was growing fruits and vegetables in the Central Valley, very fertile area. And they had a produce stand at their house in North Beach on Green Street in San Francisco, where they sold their fruits and vegetables. And in their travels, they discovered that when they came to Sonoma County, it reminded them very much of what their home in Tuscany looked like, with the rolling hills, the vineyards. And so that jump-started them buying grapes from Sonoma County, bringing them to San Francisco across the Golden Gate. And at this time, this was before the Golden Gate Bridge was built. So there was probably some carriages involved and some barges or ferries or ships or something like that. So anyway, they made wine in San Francisco from Sonoma County grapes, and that was the beginning in 1876 of Simi Winery. Sometime later, they decided that they would divide and conquer. So Giuseppe came up to Healdsburg, bought a property, started making wine in Healdsburg, and transporting the wine along the railroad line to San Francisco, and again across the Golden Gate on a ferry or a barge. And Pietro was in San Francisco selling the wine out of the produce shop. In 1890, they built the winery that you see behind me now. And in 1904, they expanded it, doubling their production. So in that same year, both brothers passed away. They died within about 4 weeks of each other. But this is where the story gets really interesting, because Giuseppe, who was the winemaker, had an 18-year-old daughter named Isabel. She took over running the winery until 1970. So all those years through the Spanish flu that we know about now, and in 1918 through the 13 years of prohibition, the Depression, World Wars, you know, she had a lot of obstacles. So finally, I think in 1970, she was a little bit tired. She ended up selling the winery to a local grower here in Alexander Valley, but she still stayed around for about another 10 years, welcoming people to the winery, selling the wine, and she was quite a character. So she was always the face of Simi for many, many years. So we like to tell her story because it's really a story of perseverance and probably tenacity, and she was quite a character. So I'm going to stop there in the history just for a moment, and I just wanted to reintroduce Kolin. So he's going to be taking us through the preparation of tiramisu tonight. So to begin with, we'll taste a few white wines, all from Sonoma County. Sonoma County Sauvignon Blanc to begin with, then our Chardonnay, and then Kolin will start going through the preparation of the tiramisu, and we're going to show you, he's going to tell you how he's adapted this recipe so that it's more red wine friendly. So this is going to be really interesting. So first of all, we're going to start with our Sonoma County Sauvignon Blanc. And as we're tasting these wines, I'll talk a little bit about the wine itself, about where it comes from, some of the flavors, some of the winemaking, and then Kolin will jump in with a little bit of information about food pairing. Okay, all right, cool. So hopefully some of you have these wines. This is our Sonoma County Sauvignon Blanc. It's the 2019 vintage. So our Sonoma County Sauvignon Blanc, we source from multiple different areas from Sonoma County. So one of the great things about living in this region and making wine is there's so many different places that you can source grapes from, and each area brings a little bit something different to the table. So this is a blend of grapes, primarily from Alexander Valley. That's here where we are, and we have estate vineyards here. So a lot of our grapes come from Alexander Valley. It's in the north part, it's more inland, it's warmer. So you get really nice ripe grapes, really juicy, ripe, lush fruit flavors. We also source from the Russian River Valley and a little bit from Dry Creek Valley. So we're getting a little bit more crisp, green, acid-driven flavors. So what you get is this really bright, crisp, fresh Sauvignon Blanc with a lot of nice, you know, really good fruit that jumps out of the glass. But it's very crisp and refreshing. Pairs with a lot of foods, but it's great just as a sipper all by itself. So I'm going to ask Kolin to jump in and talk a little bit about how he approaches food pairing. He is the chef here at the winery, so his job is to create dishes that complement the wine, and I'll let him take it from here.
Thanks, Lisa. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Going off of what Lisa had mentioned about our food program here at the winery. Obviously, we are at a winery, so the wine is basically the star of the show or of the event. And what we try and do is try and pair our food so it not only complements, but we try not to change the flavor of the wine. So because we want to show it how the winemakers had intended it to be drank. It can be an easy situation, or it can be a little bit more finagling some ingredients to try and get that correct pairing. But it always is a lot of fun, and it's a good challenge for everyone here in the food department. In general, we're talking about the Sauvignon Blanc right now, and I think one really good thing, which is really in season right now here on the West Coast, is Dungeness crab. We do an endive and Dungeness crab salad, which has like a champagne vinaigrette, a little bit of herbs in there, and apple, and I just think it really that pairing being bright, being crisp, and I think the crab gives a little bit of salinity to the dish as well, which I think really pairs well with that Sauvignon Blanc.
Cool, thank you. I love this wine. I've heard people say, one of our growers that provides some of the Sauvignon Blanc for us, she called it her lemonade. I love that. But it really is. It's fresh and crisp and lots of nice bright fruit. Delicious.
So Lisa, we do have some viewers on Zoom tasting along, and they're just sharing their thoughts on the wine. Smells great. Love the little bit of sweetness in the wine. And somebody wants you to know that they saw you on Cook's Corner.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in tonight with us then. So next we'll move on to our Sonoma County Chardonnay. So this is also sourced from different regions throughout Sonoma County. Alexander Valley, like I said, it's warmer, so the fruit gets very ripe. The fruit flavors are very lush and developed more on the tropical side. And then we also get fruit from the Russian River Valley, which is a little bit cooler. The Sonoma coast, which is also even more on the cooler side, closer to the ocean. So you get more tempering of the climate through the fog intrusion that comes in at night, cools down the vineyards. So the ripening season is a little bit more extended and the acid is preserved. So it's a long, slow ripening process in those cooler regions. And also from Los Carneros, which is in the southern part of Sonoma County. And that also has fog that comes in at night, but that comes in through the Delta. So through the north part of the San Francisco Bay, the fog is drawn up through the valley into Los Carneros and Sonoma Valley. So it has that same effect of slowing down the ripening and really allowing all the beautiful flavors to develop while also preserving that natural acidity. So if you have this wine, go ahead and pour yourself some if you haven't already. This wine, we do a lot of barrel fermentation here. So about 80% of this wine is barrel fermented, and then about 20% of it we ferment in stainless steel tanks. So you get two kind of really different components that are complementary and explain a lot about why this wine tastes the way it does. So with the barrel fermentation, we're actually just crushing the grapes, pressing the juice out, and then we inoculate it with yeast that converts the sugar to the alcohol. And we, as soon as we put the yeast in it, then we put it into barrels and we let it ferment in those barrels. So that process, and then the aging in the barrels creates a lot more texture, flavor from the toast of the barrels. Not all of them are new, so some of them have been filled before, so aren't as impactful with those strong toasty, spicy barrel flavors. But the barrel fermentation and aging really creates layers of creaminess and texture in the wine. And then the component that we do a stainless steel fermentation on really preserves the bright fruit flavors. So it doesn't get overwhelmed by that barrel characteristic and that oaky character. So get a nice, fresh, very approachable, balanced Chardonnay that I think is, I think Kolin will agree that it pairs well with a lot of different foods because it's, it's very nicely balanced. It doesn't have any big elbows sticking out. The fruit, the oak, and the little bit of that buttery, creamy component, they all marry well together. So Colin, what would you propose would go well with this Chardonnay?
With this Chardonnay, I would go something that is kind of dear to my heart. My mom made it while through my childhood and things like that. Would be like a Milanese risotto. So basically saffron, Parmesan cheese, a little butter in there. It's just such a rich, creamy dish that I think it really accents all those components that you talked about with that Chardonnay.
Nice. Sounds delicious. I'm hungry. I saw the question about French oak or American oak and what kind of oak. So we do age this in both French oak and American oak. They both bring something a little bit different. The oak that comes from the forest in France has tighter grain or tighter pores. So it really ages differently. And the French oak tends to give you a little bit more spice and structure in the wine. And then the American oak is an American white oak. And the pores and the grain is a lot more open. And what the tendency is for the flavor profile is more kind of tropical. Sometimes you can get a little bit of coconut, sometimes even a little bit of dill, and vanilla. So vanilla you can get both in French oak and American oak. So we do a blend of different oak barrels. So that's really the component that gives it more of that structure and a framing of all that beautiful fruit.
Awesome. And so before we move on to tiramisu and our next wines, we have a question that came in on Facebook, and it's kind of a question for both of our Lisas, actually. So the person on Facebook is wondering, Lisa Evich, have you been able to attend New Hampshire Wine Week when we were able to host it? And what has your experience been here in New Hampshire? And
Yes.
then I'll have to say the second part.
All right. Yeah, great question. I've actually been twice for New Hampshire Wine Week, and it's so fun, and it's a lot of running around, so many activities. It seems like all over the state, not just in Manchester. So the first time I came out was in 2016, and then I was there a year ago. So doing some wine dinners, visiting some of the stores, meeting people, and then of course the grand finale is the Winter Wine Spectacular. So I know that this 90 Days Around the World program is taking the place of that this year. So kudos to you guys to find something really dynamic to, still be able to give the people that shop at your the liquor and wine outlets.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to have you in person, virtually, however we can have you with us. So thank you for being here tonight. And then the second part of that question, I'm going to direct to Lisa Goslin. The second part of the question was, and are you guys doing anything for Easter seals this year in place of the Winter Wine Spectacular?
Great question. So we're so excited. We have a raffle that we've created to help out charities that we usually work with to replace the Winter Wine Spectacular this year. Our goal is to raise $500,000 for the New Hampshire Food Bank and Easter Seals New Hampshire. You can choose the prize package you want when you enter to win the Cheers for Charity raffle. Either it could be a wine package or a spirit package. We have multiple tickets that you can buy if you think you're a lucky person. But the Cheers for Charity raffle is going on now through April 1st. And it pretty much contains about 52 bottles of rare wines and spirits, like bottles like Chateau Petrus. We have a 2017 six-pack that's sealed on the Romane Conte, which is one of the most sought after wines in the world, and a 2006 Chateau Margaux. We have some great spirits like OFC 1994 bourbon whiskey. We have Pappy Van Winkle, the 23-year-old Kentucky bourbon whiskey. That's just the name a few. We also, the winners, there'll be two, will provide coach airfare for two to New Hampshire, and a luxury hotel accommodations for 2 nights. So, I mean, that's such a great, it's for a great cause. We're only going to be selling 5,000 tickets until April 1st. They're about they're $100 a piece. And so you should check it out. You can get more information on New Hampshire Wine and Out, liquorandwineouts.com. And I'll post that on there so everybody has it as well. So take advantage of it. It's only 78 days left and you don't want to miss out on this great raffle.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, so we're really excited, obviously, about our 90 days promotion. You know, we couldn't have our distiller showcase. We couldn't have our winter wine spectacular with everything going on. But this has just been so much fun. Like, I speak from personal experience, guys. You've been live with me like 30 times now in the past couple of months, and it has just been such a joy hanging out with everybody, meeting some of these brands. We hope you've been enjoying it, and we still want to do everything we can to benefit our local charity partners. So thank you. Thank you, Lisa's, for answering that question for everyone. And now I think it's time for more wine. What do we think, everyone?
All right. Well, I think that the main event is the cooking class that Kolin is going to take us through, the tiramisu. So just a little bit of background on this. I thought it was great how this all came together, just really organically. You know, we were asked to do this presentation months ago, and, you know, right around the holidays, we said, well, you know, what should we do? What would be something fun to do for a cooking demonstration? And Kolin's sous chef, Sean, had just made a tiramisu the week before. And so we just started brainstorming, well, that was so delicious. How can we make something like that more food friendly, or more wine friendly rather, so that it could be paired with a red wine. So red wine and chocolate, they're kind of a natural pairing, but tiramisu was more creamy and some of those flavors aren't quite right. So Kolin was up for the challenge, and I'll let him talk a little bit more about, you know, how, sorry about that, how you can look at food and wine pairings and break the rules a little bit, you know, tweaking your recipe. You know, sometimes you might add more acid with lemon juice or something like that to just make your flavors pop a little bit more and be more complementary to the wine that you want to serve it with.
Thanks, Lisa. Again, the tiramisu recipe, like Lisa had mentioned, was definitely something that I think is a very easy recipe to replicate. And the reason that we chose the red was it's just something different comparatively to what you would serve with the tiramisu. Tiramisu does originally have chocolate in it as it is, but maybe not enough chocolate to really balance out that that pairing with the wine. So what we did is we incorporated a little bit more chocolate into the layers of the dish, as well as we took a bottle of the Cabernet and reduced it down and added it into our ladyfinger soak. So I think that also kind of added a little element of fruit, concentrated fruit, and a little bit more tannins into the dish, which I think really pairs well. So I'm going to go through the procedures of actually making the tiramisu. I noticed that we did have a question about people wanting to get the recipe. So I'm not sure how we can either post it somewhere, or I mean, even I could, if people want to email me or anything like that, I have no problems in sending an email to them as well. But posting might be a little bit easier so everybody can kind of take a look at it. But initially what we're going to start with is the soak. Again, the soak is pretty simple. It starts with a little bit of, we're adding cocoa powder into the soak as well, which adds a little bit more of that bitterness that I think really goes well. Then we have a little bit of coffee, a strong coffee, espresso if you have it, a little bit of coffee liqueur, and the reduced, 1 bottle of the Cabernet reduced down to half a cup. And that's pretty much it. A little bit of adding all these together and just mixing it up. It's as simple as that. The cocoa powder, obviously, you're going to need a whisk if you have to add that into it. Just so you incorporate it all into it. And then I add a little bit of vanilla extract into this as well. And this is just going to basically mix it up until it's fully incorporated. And then I'm going to start on the mousse, which is basically the mascarpone mousse. Mascarpone is basically like a really thick, creamy cheese, I guess you'd call it. But it's almost like spreadable like butter. So with the, we're gonna, I found that the lady fingers, which you can buy at most grocery stores, there's different, obviously brands and things like that, but if you can find just a lady finger that is kind of associated with making the tiramisu, that's always good to use. You're gonna soak these. They're dry and crispy, so you want to kind of like soak them for a little bit so they do incorporate that soap and all the flavors that soap has. So I'm going to incorporate these into there. And I do have some made up already with the magic of the virtual, I guess. And so I'm going to let these soak, and I would soak them for at least a minute to a minute and a half. They do hold up quite well, so you don't have to be worried about them falling apart. Next step is the mascarpone mousse. If anybody has a KitchenAid or a mixer, a standing mixer at home, that's probably best to use for utilizing a whisk attachment. We're going to add in room temperature eggs, 5 eggs, whole eggs, and half a cup of granulated sugar, and a pinch of salt. So this will basically be mixed just to incorporate the sugar and the eggs. And then I have a double boiler, which is basically called a double boiler is basically a pot with a little bit of water in that we're going to put the mixing bowl on top of to warm up the eggs. Basically, you're trying to cook the eggs approximately to like 160 degrees Fahrenheit, or in between 150 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit to warm these up and basically incorporate the sugar, dissolve the sugar into the eggs. And then once we are finished with that, this is probably going to take probably about 3 to 4 minutes getting it to the temp that you want it to, that 150 degrees Fahrenheit. And then you're going to put it onto the mixer with the whisk attachment.
Colin, I see there's a question about the temperature of the eggs that you're starting with. Is it best to start with eggs that are at room temperature?
The reason that I do it at room temp is just it takes less time, because if they're coming right out of the fridge, it just takes a little bit longer to get to that temperature. So I just use room temp because it just is a little bit quicker in getting it to that 150, 160 degrees. Yeah, and it's just constantly stirring. The water on the bottom is like at a really slow simmer, so you don't want it too rapidly boiling, because what you'll end up getting is potentially sweet scrambled eggs. So obviously you don't want to do that. So we're just basically trying to warm them up at a slow pace and get them to that specific temperature.
Well, I'm going to take advantage of you stirring and slowly heating up your mixture to talk a little bit about our Cabernet and where it comes from. So maybe some of you have already dipped into the red wine, but I'm going to pour myself a glass now. This is our Sonoma County Cabernet Sauvignon 2018. So like our other Sonoma County wines, we source from different areas within Sonoma County to really showcase the best of what we can get out of this grape varietal. Like I said, our home is here in the Alexander Valley. So most of the fruit comes from just, a few miles from where our winery is, but we also source from Sonoma Valley and Dry Creek Valley, and a little bit from Knights Valley, actually. So this wine is aged in both French oak and American oak. I think you really get what Alexander Valley brings to the table. A lot of plum, some dried plum, spice, dark berries. It's just a really nice example of what Cabernet Sauvignon is. And this is the wine that you used in your reduction, Colin?
Yes. Yeah.
Sonoma County?
Yeah, and then I basically just took the bottle, put it into a pot, reduced it down to half a cup. So from 750 mils down to half a cup. So
How long does that take to cook it down to that level?
probably 8 minutes. Something that depends how high,
Yeah,
how high you boil it. So I do it at a medium boil, so nothing too rapid, because I think reducing it too quickly, I think imparts a little bit of not burnt flavors, but it's nicer when it's like a slow reduction. You just concentrate those flavors a little bit more. But the eggs are to temperature, so that probably took about two and a half minutes. And again, if it's coming out of the fridge, it might take a little bit longer. That's all. So basically, all I'm going to do is you basically whisk it on medium-high heat, medium-high speed, to cool down those eggs, and basically you're whipping up, incorporating air into it to get a really nice fluffy egg base. So it's I don't know if anybody knows about Sauvignon, which is basically like a whisked egg yolk and sugar dessert in Italian culture. But it's kind of like that, where it volumizes and basically gets a really nice like custardy texture to it. So that'll take 4 to 5 minutes in terms of cooling the eggs down. So then I can start incorporating the mascarpone into that.
So Colin, we have a couple of questions from people wanting to know the specific measurements. So if you share that with me, I'll make sure it gets emailed out to everybody who attended tonight. So
yeah, absolutely. I can do that. No problem.
And then for those of you here on Zoom, I'm going to put my email address in the chat just in case you, for some reason, don't get the email with the ingredients, or if you have any questions, or if you didn't get your coupon for the event tonight. If you need anything at all, email me. And so if you're in,
I'm just gonna put myself on mute for a little bit just because of the mixer. I don't wanna disturb anybody when I'm mixing.
thanks, Colin. So if you guys are enjoying the tiramisu demo, so Colin has actually put together 2 really cool prizes. I've been teasing these to you guys via email and on Facebook all week. He actually created 2 build your own tiramisu kits at home that he's going to be giving away tonight. So in a little while, we're going to have a couple of trivia questions. This giveaway will be open to everybody on Zoom and on Facebook. So if you think you know the answer to the trivia, leave the response. We're going to be watching for the first correct answers, and 2 people will be going, well, not going home because you are home. 2 people will be receiving some tiramisu kits so you can make your own tiramisu at home. And then at the end of the event, we're also going to be pulling some winners for some gift cards to our stores. So to be eligible for those, all you have to do is leave a question or a comment on Zoom or on Facebook. Just tell us what you're drinking tonight, which wine you're most looking forward to. We just want to talk. So anybody who leaves a question or a comment is entered for those gift cards. So Colin's going to be doing his mixing, and Lisa, I think we have some more wine, right?
Yes, we do. It's kind of funny because Colin and I are actually in the same building right now, but we're a couple rooms away from each other, so I can hear the mixer going from afar. So behind me, it's funny, I can see the winery behind me, and it looks a lot like some of our old black and white photos that we have of the winery, so it's kind of cool. If you ever, someday when we can travel again and you can go around the world in 90 days, not virtually, but in person, please do come to Sonoma County. It's just beautiful, and our winery is a great stop. In normal times, we have a great tour and tasting and a very friendly tasting room. So you can taste the wines that we make here, small production for our wine club and tasting room, as well as the wines that we're tasting here today. So I'm gonna pick up where I left off with Isabel Simi taking over for her father running the winery. So that was Giuseppe, it was her father, and Pietro. You know, they were older. You can imagine if they came to California in the late 1840s, they were pretty well advanced in their years. So Isabel, she had worked alongside her father for years at the winery, going on local business trips with him. She knew a little bit about winemaking. She would weigh the grape trucks during harvest. But she had been attending a business school in Santa Rosa, which is nearby us. So she, like I said, took over running the winery at the age of 18 in 1904. Women didn't even have the right to vote, and here's this young lady running this operation. So she kept it running all the way through Prohibition. We're the longest continually operating winery in Sonoma County. And I think it's because of her, because she just would not ever give up. She was very strong and determined, and she persevered. During the years of Prohibition, it is said that she took advantage of the loophole in the laws that allowed for each head of household, male head of household, to make up to 200 gallons of wine for their own consumption each year. So her employees stayed on and they made their allotment here at the winery. So at the end of those years, they had not only the wine that they had on hand before Prohibition went into effect, but there was wine being made every year, and not only through that loophole, but also there was medicinal wine that was being made and sacramental wine that was being made. So, you know, it kept happening. At the end of Prohibition, there was 50,000 gallons of wine that she had in storage here. Now, not all of it was ready to sell. Some of it had to be distilled down for brandy. We had a brandy distillery here at that time. And some of it, I think, was probably sold off to be made into vinegar. But what was good was probably very good. You know, it'd been aging for a long time. So it was bottled and it was shipped to restaurants on the East Coast and across the country. And Simi rapidly became known as a producer of California fine wines. So it's a pretty impressive story of a very strong young lady. It looks like Colin is pausing here. Did you have something?
Yes. So basically, I've got it whisked to that creamy stage, and I've slowly been incorporating the mascarpone in. Basically, 4 8-ounce little containers of mascarpone. I've just been taking half of it and putting it in, letting it mix through, and then just continuing that until all 4 containers are in it. And then the last ingredient that I'll be utilizing is a little bit more cocoa powder into the mousse. So instead of making just the traditional mascarpone mousse, I'm adding the cocoa powder into that as well. So you're going to get double layers of that chocolate.
So I'll tell you a little bit about our next wine. This is going to be our Landslide Vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon. So this wine, we have a new label within the last year. So this is for our reserve tier wines. And the Landslide Vineyard, this is the only single vineyard wine that we distribute nationally. And when you taste this wine, you'll know what makes it so special. The vineyard is, it's owned and farmed by Simi and by our vineyard team. It's 172 acres, mostly Cabernet Sauvignon, but we've got Merlot, Malbec, Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot, and a very small half-acre parcel of a grape called Tannat that grows there. And all of those grapes go into this wine. This is aged in French oak. About 40% of that is new barrels. So that's aged for about 2 years. Each lot from Landslide is kept separate through the whole winemaking process. So when it comes to the winery, it's crushed separately, it's fermented separately. When it's through with fermentation, then it goes into French oak barrels, and for the whole aging period, it's kept separate. And then finally, at the end of that time, we'll taste all of the separate lots and we'll come up with the best blend. And we use all of those grape varieties that I told you about. So it's about 86% Cabernet Sauvignon, and then the rest of it is comprised of those blending wines. So all of those wines, the Bordeaux varietals, they all contribute something. They bring something to the party and make that the cab better. So I hope you enjoy it. Colin?
Okay, so I've got my mousse all ready. I don't know if you can see that there. Nice, rich mascarpone mousse with the chocolate in there as well. I do have all my soaked ladyfingers as well. So basically I can start assembling. So basically I'm going to take the ladyfingers and basically do the layer on the bottom. Layer it as best you can, keeping everything together. And then I'm going to put a little bit of, take a little bit of a few spoonfuls of the soak to fully incorporate what would you call it? the saturation of the ladyfingers, I guess, with that soap. Some people like it a little, have a little bit of toothsomeness with the ladyfingers. I like to make sure that it's kind of a little bit more on the softer side. But that, again, that's your choice of how you'd like to present it. So I basically got a whole layer in the bottom of the container. And then I'm going to take half of the mascarpone mousse and layer that on top. And just spread it out. Make sure you try and get every area covered. It just really adds, you want to make sure it's kind of, there's not a lot of air in between. So you want to make sure there's lots of layers of the mousse and the ladyfingers. I'm going to put a little bit of cocoa powder, just one slight layer of cocoa powder here. Over top of the mascarpone mousse. And then you're basically going to repeat that as well again. So you're going to take the ladyfingers and do one more layer of ladyfingers. Making sure you cover the whole top. Use some of the ones that we soaked just before.
So Colin, it looks like you're using a round dish. So yeah. I've seen it mostly in square or rectangular containers, but it looks like it's pretty flexible. You can use any kind of shape dish that you have.
Depends on what container. It doesn't have to be specifically in a square container. I mean, it's obviously easier with the ladyfingers being kind of rectangular in shape as it is. But again, I have another layer of the ladyfingers, and then we're going to go with the last of the mousse. And you could serve it the same day that you make it, but it's preferred if you were to put it into the fridge for 24 hours. It just kind of like firms up the mousse a little bit more and kind of incorporates all those flavors together. So that's pretty much that. And then to finish, just before you potentially are going to serve it, I'm going to microplane a little bit of chocolate on top of that. And then maybe if Lisa has anything to say, I'll scoop out a little scoop to put onto a plate so you can at least see the layers of everything. So,
Colin, I'd like to selfishly ask you, this is my question. Do you do virtual cooking classes? Or
we do. We offer that on our Simi's website. Basically, what we can do is we have a few different options. What we do is we will send out ingredients from the winery. If you pick certain options, we can get stuff from our garden. We could do pasta cooking class. We could do. I could do this one as well. I mean, we basically will send out a kit for whoever orders it, and then we will set up a time where it's good for both for them to basically go through the whole steps of the food, as well as we can incorporate one of our wine educators into the conversation as well. So we can add in a bunch of different wines and stuff like that too. So depending on your state, we can ship the wines to you, or you could purchase the wines at your local store or something like that. So
Great. I will say for everybody watching, I've actually been going to a bunch of online cooking classes since quarantine and lockdown kind of started last year. And they've been for like runners specifically. I've been going to runners cooking classes, fun fact. But now I want to do wine cooking class with Kolin. So
yeah, no, it's we have some really knowledgeable and entertaining wine educators here at the winery. So and we can go more into depth of the history of the winery, as well as more if people want to geek out on the wine as well, they are more than capable of helping that situation out as well.
cool.
So while Colin is finishing up with the chocolate and the microplaner, it's amazing. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you a little bit more about Landslide Vineyard while we're talking about this wine. So the vineyard is located in the southern part of Alexander Valley. Nobody else sources from this vineyard. It was actually created by an ancient landslide. That's where it gets its name. For years and years, we just called it the Simi Vineyard. And then sometime in the 1990s, the vineyard team at that time got a geologist out there with a backhoe, basically, and started digging. And what they discovered was there's all these layers, and different parts of the vineyard have different soil types. I think they called it a geologic stew of stones. I love that description. So this geologist at that time from UC Davis theorized that the Russian River that you have probably heard about, it flows from north to south. Then when it gets to Healdsburg, it abruptly takes a right turn and it heads towards the Pacific Ocean. What the geologist has theorized is that the Russian River at the site where Landslide Vineyard was formed, the Russian River used to flow nearby there and head out through the Napa Valley into the San Pablo Bay. This geologic event 10,000 or more years ago essentially formed a dam that forced the river to change directions and head out to the Pacific Ocean. So that's what we have to thank for so many different microclimates and the Russian River Valley that was formed in Sonoma County. So that was just a little kind of fun thing about how that vineyard got its name. There's different areas of the vineyard. There's a low part, a medium part, and a high part that's more benchland. So some of those parts within the vineyard have very little topsoil. They're very rocky, well draining. So we have to really be on top of it with managing how much water we give the grapes, whereas some of the lower parts have more rich, fertile soils. So again, we have to manage not giving it too much water because we don't want to have the vines having their feet wet too much. So over the years, the vineyard was planted in the early 1980s. We've really changed some of the sites, what's planted there. For a time, we grew Sauvignon Blanc out at Landslide Vineyard. We used to grow some Syrah out there, but over time, it has just been replanted and grafted over towards these Bordeaux varietals that really, really thrive and make beautiful wines at that site. How are you doing in there, Colin?
I am done. So this I basically took a spoon, a large spoon, and basically scooped it out. You could cut it into squares if you'd like, but it's kind of easy just to scoop out as much as you want. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a super simple, rich, and adding that cocoa powder and that reduction of wine, I think really pairs well with the cab. So hope you guys enjoyed it. And again, anyone who does want this recipe specifically, I have no problems in emailing it to you, or Caroline can also get those information from me as well, and I can send stuff out to you as well. And again, hopefully sometime soon we'll get to see everyone over here at Simi. We do have a great wine program. Lots of fun pairings and with the food as well. But I really hope to see everyone soon. I do enjoy the virtual things, but it's so much, a lot more fun and really a lot more engaging when we are together with each other. So thanks again, everyone. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Colin. So Colin, before you leave us, Sharon would like to know how many people this tiramisu would feed. And my answer would be 1. So I feel like that might not be what she's looking for.
I would say this particular one, depending on the size of your container, this obviously, this container, I would say that this would be at least like 8 to 10 people, really depending on the size of the portion you want to give each other. So yeah, I would say about 8 people. I mean, and that would be a hefty slice for everybody. So
Awesome. So Lisa, we have a few more questions for you, if you don't
Okay.
mind indulging us. Let me just go back to them. There's so many. So a couple people here on Zoom are actually planning trips out to the winery for 2022. So that's good, planning ahead.
Great.
Let's see, where is it? Bunch of people want to try the Landslide. So Lisa Goslin has shared which stores that is available at here in New Hampshire. If anybody else is curious, please go ahead, shoot us a message on Facebook, or you can email me. I put my email in the Zoom chat. We can find product inventory for you. Oh, Tom here on Zoom he went with his wife and visited Simi for their anniversary in 2016. How cute is that?
Awesome.
Sorry, you guys are leaving some really amazing comments. So I'm just going through them, trying to get to the questions for Lisa. How old are the grapes that are used in the Landslide? Or I think maybe that means how long is it aged?
So I'll say the aging part first. It's aged for 2 years in French oak barrels, but I think it might be referring to the vineyard age. It's a variety. Some of the blocks are the original plantings, so they're 30 plus years old, which is really old for a Cabernet Sauvignon. Some of those blocks have had to be replanted. And as I said, some of the blocks, they just didn't perform that well with other grape varietals. So they ended up either getting replanted or grafted over to Bordeaux varietals. So I think the youngest blocks are 4 or 5 years old, and there's a few vineyard blocks in Landslide that are fallow right now. So we're just letting the vineyard block recover before we replant it again.
Great. Colin, question for you. One of our viewers here on Zoom, Laura, she would like to know, can you substitute cream cheese for the mascarpone?
yes, yep, you could do that as well. Yep.
Excellent. And then, somebody on Facebook would like to know the code word for tonight. All right, I'll tell you, I'm the one who knows it. So the code word for tonight for your virtual passport is Simi. It's probably the hardest code word we've had thus far. So enter that into your virtual passport for 100 points for attending tonight's event. All right. Colin, Tracy would like to know if you deliver. Will you deliver tiramisu to her in Massachusetts?
Well, we could try and figure something out if that.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, this has been amazing. I think it's time to do our giveaways now. So if you have any more questions for Lisa or Colin, please go ahead, keep leaving them while we go through some of this giveaway stuff. So first up, I'm going to be asking a couple of trivia questions. So the answers to these trivia questions, Lisa and Colin have given you already. You just didn't know. So there are going to be 2 trivia questions. One winner per question will get a tiramisu kit from Colin. So this is open to our Zoom attendees and our Facebook attendees. Lauren and I are both going to be watching and cross-referencing timestamps to see who leaves the response first. If you are answering on Facebook, we will need you to send us your email address because we don't already have that. So just be aware. All right, guys. First question. So this person took over the Simi Winery at 18 years old and became a pioneer in the wine industry. What was her first name? All right. We have lots of correct answers coming in, but which person answered first? All right, based on the timestamps, it looks like John Elander on Zoom was the very first correct answer. I mean, I will say that the next correct answer was 3 seconds behind him. So you guys are on top of you're on your game. Okay. John, congratulations. You are getting a tiramisu kit. I will email you to get your contact information probably tomorrow morning. All right.
Caroline?
Yes.
One quick question. Anybody who does win the tiramisu kits, if they could get your address as well as your telephone number, because we'll probably be sending it via UPS. So.
All right. So John and a to be determined person, I will need your address and your phone number. Okay. Next question. In what year did Giuseppe Simi leave Italy for California? And for those of you tuning in on Facebook and didn't see, well, there was correct answers given on Facebook as well, but the correct answer to question 1 was Isabel. All right. We've got a lot of answers. We've got 1876, that's close. 1913, that's close. It's close-ish. 1890, kind of close. Oh my gosh. I don't see any. You guys, you're better than this. I know you were paying attention. Oh, here we go. Paul here on Zoom. 13th answer given. You are correct. 1849. Congratulations to Paul. You will also be getting a tiramisu kit. You guys, I think that's the first trivia question we've had on any of these events that has stumped so many people. All right. So let's see here. We do have a couple more questions for Lisa before we go ahead and pull our gift card winners. Lauren is actually pulling the gift card winners while we go over these last couple of questions. So, Lisa, for you, has Simi ever considered going back to its original roots and attempting to make a Montepulciano style wine? And I'm sorry if I said that wrong.
No, we're pretty well rooted with what we do and what I think we do best, which is Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, and Cabernet Sauvignon. You know, we'll leave the Italian wines to the Italians. There's some old vines here, but it's really not our area of expertise. So no, not at this time.
Okay. And then is the Landslide Vineyard also in Sonoma County?
Yes.
And then one more for Colin. Colin, can you please tell us again what that risotto was?
The Milanese. So it's basically saffron. It's like a saffron risotto.
Awesome. Thank you, Colin. All right, guys. So those of you who left comments and questions for Lisa and Colin, you were all entered to win $50 gift cards to our stores. So we have 4 winners, 2 from Facebook, 2 from here on Zoom. Please contact me if you are a winner from Facebook, as I will not have your email address already. So Facebook winners, we have Georgie and Tracy. So you can email me to claim your gift card. Sorry, not email me, send a message to us on Facebook, the New Hampshire Liquor and Wine Outlets page, where this video is being streamed. And then here on Zoom, our 2 winners, my email address will be in the chat for you to email me. And our 2 winners are, drumroll, Laura and Mark. So congratulations, everyone. So again, if you're winning from Facebook, please send us a message on Facebook, either with your address or with your email address so we can get your address. And on Zoom, I have just put my email address so you guys can email me with your contact info. Lisa, Colin, this has been such a pleasure. I'm so hungry for tiramisu right now. I do have a bottle of Landslide for myself to go with my dinner tonight. I was prepared for the after tasting, so at least I get to have some of that. Lisa Goslin did share the stores that's available in. It's not available in all of our stores. It's a more specialty product, but you know, it's amazing. Go find it. It's in Bedford. That's where I got it. So thank you everybody for tuning in. We really appreciate you tuning into our 90 days events. Again, the code word for tonight is Simi. We had such a great time cooking and tasting with Lisa and Colin. I'll be sharing the tiramisu recipe out via email to everybody who attended on Zoom, and I'll post it on Facebook as well. I did share a picture of it on Facebook that got some people excited earlier. Colin took that picture, everyone. Chef and photographer. Lisa, we hope that you can come for Wine Week next year. It was so great having you last year. Lisa did a great presentation as part of Wine Week. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before, but it was amazing. She's awesome, virtual and in real life. So
It was just last year, and it was at the newly renovated Rex Theater.
oh, that's right.
Yeah,
That was fun.
A lot of fun. Yeah, I hope to be back soon too.
Awesome. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. If you have any questions, please visit our website, 90daysaroundtheworld.com. You can learn how to download the virtual passport. You can leave feedback on events there. You can find our upcoming events. We've got a couple more weeks. We're having wine events every night in January. So we're excited for Wine January. So thanks everybody. We will see you tomorrow night.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
Bye.
Thank you, Colin.
Bye, Cheryl. Bye, Mitchell. Thanks for helping
Bye.
out. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.